The Rocky Flats Wildlife Refuge will open for recreational use to the public on September 15th. Representative Jared Polis has asked Secretary of the Interior Ryan Zinke to delay the opening until more testing can be done. David, you're our esteemed lawyer at the table. Is there any chance this gets delayed before September 15th?
No, scientific nonsense. The Colorado Department of Public Health and the Environment has been working on Rocky Flats since the late 1980s, and in conjunction with EPA. They have excellent scientists there who are civil servants. You know, they don't come and go with politics, but obviously this final step has been done under the Hickenlooper administration. They say it's perfectly safe. Now, there's a contaminated zone within Rocky Flats that's a Superfund site, and that's off limits. But the enormous buffer zone that Rocky Flats had around it, the Department of Public Health and the Environment says it's safe. And if they say that, I believe them. And Jared Polis, if he becomes governor, is going to be the big boss of the Department of Public Health and the Environment. And he's just essentially said, hey, all you hardworking civil servant scientists there, when it comes to a clash between your expert scientific knowledge on projects you've been working on, in some cases for decades, versus the anti-science, hysterical, extreme left of the party, I tell you which one I'm going to side with. I'll throw you under the bus in a second, and I'll go for the anti-science fear-mongering. And I think it's sad because I think Jared is a smart guy, well-informed, he knows better, and this is typical of what's been going on with him all year, is a sensible guy, has gone way left in pandering that he knows better than.
Eric, as David makes a good point that Jared Polis may have lost the government scientist vote with this point, but can he turn this into something more exciting, whether for his base or even for other voters in Colorado that look at Rocky Flats in a different way?
I'm not sure I buy the premise of the question, Dominic. I mean, if I'm Jared Polis, I got the base. The base is motivated. They're motivated by Donald Trump. They're motivated by Jared Polis. They're plenty motivated. They can't wait to go vote. He needs to move it a little. He needs to attract a few more centrists. For reasons we've discussed on other shows, I mean, he enters this race with somewhat of a working advantage. As I say, a light blue state, a deep blue year. So it's Polis's to lose, but he doesn't need to further reinforce that base. I think there's a couple of side stories here. One is the tension, which is a long-running tension between Jared Polis and John Hickenlooper. As David accurately pointed out, this is an attack on John Hickenlooper's Department of Public Health and the Environment. I worry that it is a preview of a Polis administration. Some things can be studied forever because you can never get, there is no such thing in life as 100% certainty. You can get 99.999, but you don't get 100% certainty. Jared Polis could be governor for 8 years and perhaps still want to study this some more. We are not having houses. We're not putting people out on Rocky Flats to live or to work. This is a recreation zone. The stat I read is that you could picnic there 100 times over the course of the year, and your radiation exposure would be equivalent to eating 20 bananas over the course of that same year. At some point, you can study these things to death. Good people have studied it and come to a conclusion. We're not residing or working out there. We're recreating a little bit out there, and let's move on with it.
Brother Jeff, despite being open, as Eric points out, it's not like people are being forced to go out there, not putting people out there to live officially. Will the use of it just be low because of the history of the place?
Well, I think it will be. And people get an opportunity to decide if they're given accurate information about what has taken place in that environment. It's said that some administrators in education are not going to take their students. But then on the flip side, there are residents that can't wait to utilize the trails, et cetera. I want to go back to Polis, and I think that he's right in terms of saying, what's the rush? Let's look at some of the recent situations in terms of his quote around unanticipated and significant climate events. You know, he's talking about the flooding and what that topsoil and all of that has done. That's relatively new. And for him to say, let's step back and take a look at the effects moving forward with new information, I think he's got a strong point.
Patty, you and your team at Westward have, I will go ahead and say that probably the most in-depth coverage about Rocky Flats since the Westward's inception. What do you think about this latest chapter?
Yes, like plutonium, Rocky Flat stories do not go away ever. So it was, but with all the new people moving to Denver, what is critical is that we remember what happened there and we have a thorough accounting of what happens there so people can make the decision. I think probably would stop people on the street. They would have no idea what Rocky Flats was. It was 30 years ago next June that the FBI raided Rocky Flats, that the grand jury was impaneled, that they wanted to indict 8 individuals for environmental crimes, and instead there was this deal cut by the Department of Justice with Rockwell International, which ran it. Then there's the Superfund cleanup. People just don't know that plant made all the plutonium triggers for this country's nuclear weapons arsenal. There's plutonium that was lost. They did do a cleanup that most people have been impressed by. Some of the stuff they could never clean up, and it's just buried in the center that David referred to, that is a Superfund site forever. It is a beautiful place. I've toured it. I don't think I'm glowing now. I've been there a couple times. It's a beautiful outdoor area, but you hope people are given enough information to make their own decisions. And what concerns me is 11 years ago, Fish and Wildlife, when 5,000 plus acres was transferred over for the refuge, they agreed to signage. That's not the signage that's going up. The signage that's going up isn't a whole lot different from chirpy, happy, let's buy a VIP luxury loft in the heart of 5 Points because it's so true to the history of this place.